Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The cold steel of the blade kissed my jugular, a lover's touch far more intimate than the man holding it had ever granted me. My eyes snapped open, breath hitching in a throat already constricted by the threat of death, and I found myself staring not at the ceiling of my studio apartment, but into the obsidian, hate-filled eyes of a man who looked like a god carved from nightmares. He straddled my waist, his silk robes cascading around us like a pool of spilled ink, his hand steady as it pressed the sword into my skin just enough to draw a single, hot bead of blood. "Give me one reason," he whispered, his voice a baritone rumble that vibrated through my chest. "Why I shouldn't sever this treacherous head from your neck right now, Shenwei." Shenwei. The name crashed into my mind, bringing with it a deluge of memories that weren't mine, memories of obsession, of poisoning rivals, of a desperate, clawing love for the man currently threatening to execute me. I realized with a sick, sinking lurch that I was no longer Lenny Chen, the overworked graphic designer. I was General Shenwei, the villainous, discarded consort in the web novel The Jade Sovereign's Mercy. And the man about to kill me was Zhao Feng, the male lead, the tyrant emperor, and the man Shenwei had doomed himself trying to possess. According to the plot, this was the night Shenwei died. He was supposed to weep, to beg, to confess his undying love one last time, and Zhao Feng, disgusted by the display, would end his misery. I swallowed hard, the movement causing the blade to bite deeper. I didn't want to die. I didn't love this man. I just wanted to survive. Because, I choked out, my voice raspy but devoid of the tears he was expecting. "If you kill me, Your Majesty, you'll ruin those magnificent silk sheets. And blood is notoriously difficult to wash out." Zhao Feng froze. The murderous glint in his eyes flickered, replaced by a sudden, sharp confusion. This wasn't the script. The original Shen Wei would have been screaming for mercy. I took advantage of his hesitation. "Also," I added, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs, "I have the tiger tally hidden where you will never find it. Kill me, and half the army mutinies by dawn." This was a gamble. In the novel, Shen Wei used the tally, the command token for the military, as a leash to force the emperor to marry him. It was the source of Zhao Feng's hatred. But now, it was my only lifeline. Zhao Feng's eyes narrowed. Slowly, agonizingly, he pulled the blade back an inch. "You dare threaten me, Shenwei?" "It's not a threat," I said, exhaling a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "It's a negotiation. Let me live, and I will give you what you want." "And what do I want?" he sneered. "Me gone," I said simply. "Grant me a divorce. Exile me to the northern wastes. I will hand over the tally, and you will never see my face again." Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy as the incense burning in the corner. Zhao Feng studied me as if I were a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. The obsession, the madness, the clingy desperation that usually defined Shen Wei. It was all gone, replaced by a cold, pragmatic survival instinct. He stood up, sheathing the sword with a sharp click that echoed through the opulent chamber. He looked down at me, his expression unreadable. "You have until the winter solstice," he said coldly. "If the tally is not in my hand by then, I won't just kill you, Shenwei. I will make you beg for death." He turned and swept out of the room, leaving me shivering, alive, and trapped in the body of a man destined for hell. The days that followed were a blur of navigating a palace that wanted me dead. As Shenwei, I was the vicious consort. The servants feared me. The court officials despised me. My father, the corrupt Prime Minister Shan, was the only reason I held any political power, but he viewed me merely as a pawn to control the emperor. My strategy was simple: become invisible. In the original novel, Shen Wei spent every waking moment harassing the emperor, interrupting his meetings, and bullying the White Lotus protagonist, a scholar named Luo Ming. I did the opposite. I locked myself in the bamboo pavilion, the furthest residence from the emperor's quarters. I spent my days reading, practicing calligraphy to calm my shaking hands, and drinking tea. I avoided Zhao Feng like the plague. But plot holes, I discovered, were self-correcting in the worst ways. 2 weeks into my transmigration, the Imperial Garden held its annual Lotus Banquet. I had feigned illness to skip it, But a decree arrived from the Empress Dowager, a woman who hated me but loved protocol, demanding my presence. I dressed in robes of pale azure, abandoning Shun Wei's signature crimson and gold. I wanted to look like part of the scenery, easily ignored. When I arrived, the garden was buzzing. Nobles in vibrant silks mingled under the lantern-lit trees. At the head table sat Zhao Feng, looking bored and dangerous. Beside him sat Luo Ming, the true protagonist. Luo Ming was delicate, ethereal, everything a BL protagonist should be. I bowed low, keeping my eyes on the floor. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "You're late," Zhao Feng said. His voice wasn't angry, just observant. "Apologies," I murmured. I lost track of time. I moved to take my seat at the far end of the table, but the Emperor's voice stopped me. "Sit here," Zhao Feng commanded, pointing to the empty cushion directly to his right. The seat of honor. The seat usually reserved for the favorite. The court went silent. Luo Ming looked down, biting his lip. "Your Majesty," I said, keeping my tone even. "That place is better suited for Scholar Luo. I am merely a general. I am unaccustomed to such proximity to the dragon's aura." Zhao Feng's eyes darkened. "Are you rejecting my favor, Shen Wei?" "I am merely knowing my place," I replied, meeting his gaze for a split second. "Your place is where I say it is." I had no choice. I sat, my body stiff. Throughout the banquet, I could feel Zhao Feng's eyes on me. He wasn't looking at Luo Ming. He was watching me peel a mandarin orange. He watched the way I politely declined wine. Shen Wei was a notorious drunkard. He watched the way I stared longingly at the exit. "You've changed," Zhao Feng murmured, leaning in close enough that his breath ghosted over my ear. The scent of sandalwood and rain overwhelmed me. "People change, Your Majesty," I whispered back, not daring to look at him. "Or perhaps you never really looked before." "I looked," he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. "I saw a viper. A jealous, screeching creature who poisoned my concubines." "The viper has lost its fangs," I said. "It just wants to return to the earth." "Or," Zhao Feng said, his hand suddenly gripping my wrist under the table, his thumb pressing into my pulse point. "The viper is lying in wait, planning its next strike." His skin was hot against mine. My pulse jumped, betraying me. "Believe what you wish," I said, pulling my hand away gently. "Just remember our deal." The winter solstice. The dynamic shifted after that night. I tried to push him away, but gravity seemed to work differently in this world. The more I retreated, the more Zhao Feng encroached. He started visiting the bamboo pavilion. At first, it was under the guise of interrogating me about the tiger tally. He would storm in, demand the location, and I would calmly pour him tea and refuse. "Why are you doing this?" he asked one rainy afternoon. He was pacing my study, looking out of place among the quiet scrolls and inkstones. "Why are you suddenly docile? Is this a game? Are you trying to make me lower my guard so your father can strike?" "My father," I said, dipping my brush into the ink, "is a leech. I have no loyalty to him." This stopped Zhao Feng cold. In the original story, Shun Wei's loyalty to his father was absolute. It was why he was executed. He was complicit in his father's treason. "You speak treason against your own house," Zhao Feng said slowly. "I speak the truth," I replied, focusing on the character for freedom I was writing. "I am tired, Zhao Feng. I am tired of the schemes, the hatred, the blood. I just want out." He walked over to the desk, his shadow falling over my paper. He reached out and lifted my chin, forcing me to look at him. His eyes were searching, devoid of the hatred that had been there weeks ago. Now, there was curiosity. And something else. "Hunger? You call me by my name," he noted. "Not Your Majesty. Not Emperor. You are about to strip me of my titles and exile me," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Formalities seem redundant. And if I decide not to exile you?" The question hung in the air. My heart skipped a beat. "You promised." "I am the Emperor," he whispered, his thumb brushing my lower lip. "I can break promises." "You hate me," I reminded him. "I hated Shen Wei," he corrected. "But I don't think I know who you are anymore." For a moment, I thought he was going to kiss me. The tension was palpable, a live wire snapping between us. The enemies to lovers trope was activating, dragging me into the romance I was trying to escape. I pulled away, standing up abruptly. "The tea is getting cold. I will fetch fresh water." I fled the room, leaving the Emperor of Su staring at my retreating back. The turning point came a month later, during the autumn hunt. This was a major plot point in the novel. Assassins hired by the Prime Minister were supposed to attack the Emperor. In the original story, Shun Wei knew about the attack and did nothing, hoping that if the Emperor was injured, he would be forced to rely on the Shun family's army. It backfired, obviously. This time, I was determined to stop it. Not out of love, I told myself, but because if Xiao Feng died, the country would fall into chaos, and I would definitely be killed by the usurpers. The forest was dense, the air crisp with the scent of pine and damp earth. I rode a black stallion, staying close to the rear guard, but keeping my eyes on Zhao Feng's gold-armored form at the front. I knew the attack would happen in the Gorge of Echoes. As the royal party entered the narrow ravine, I spurred my horse forward, breaking protocol. "General Shun," a guard shouted. "Get back in formation." I ignored him. I saw the glint of sunlight on metal in the cliffs above. "Ambush!" I screamed, my voice tearing through the serenity of the hunt. Shields. Chaos erupted. Arrows rained down from the cliffs. The Imperial Guards scrambled to form a perimeter around the Emperor, but the assassins were elite, dropping from the trees like shadows. I drew my sword, Shun Wei's muscle memory taking over. I slashed at an assassin who lunged for a minister, parrying the blow and driving my blade through his chest. It was gruesome. It was real. I looked around for Zhao Feng. He was fighting 3 men at once, his movements a blur of lethal grace. But he didn't see the fourth man, an archer perched on a rock ledge, aiming directly at the gap in his armor. I didn't think. I didn't analyze the plot. I just kicked my horse, driving it between the Emperor and the arrow. The impact was like a sledgehammer to my shoulder. I gasped, the world tilting sideways as I was knocked from my saddle. I hit the ground hard, the taste of copper filling my mouth. The pain was blinding, a white-hot fire radiating from my shoulder where the shaft protruded. Shun Wei. The roar was animalistic. Through my blurring vision, I saw Zhao Feng decapitate the last assassin and sprint toward me. He fell to his knees in the dirt, heedless of his pristine armor. "You idiot," he hissed, his face pale, eyes wide with shock. He ripped a strip of silk from his cape and pressed it against the wound. "Why? You want me dead. Why would you save me?" I looked up at him, my vision tunneling. "Hard. To get a divorce. If you're dead." "Shut up," he growled, his voice cracking. He gathered me into his arms, lifting me as if I weighed nothing. "If you die, Shun Wei, I will drag you back from hell myself just to kill you again." "Sound. Logic," I mumbled, and then the darkness took me. I woke up in the Emperor's bedchamber. The air smelled of medicinal herbs and the distinct, expensive scent of ambergris. My shoulder throbbed with a dull ache, but it was bandaged tightly. I tried to sit up, but a hand gently pushed me back down. "Stay still." Zhao Feng was sitting by the bed, reading a scroll. He looked exhausted. There were dark circles under his eyes and stubble on his jaw. He looked human. "How long?" I rasped. 3 days, he said, setting the scroll down. "The fever nearly took you. Did you catch the assassins?" "We did," he said darkly. "They were your father's men." I closed my eyes. "I know." "You knew?" His voice was dangerously soft. "I suspected," I admitted. "He wants you gone. He wants a puppet on the throne." "And you?" Zhao Feng leaned forward, his face inches from mine. "What do you want?" "I told you," I whispered. "Freedom. You took an arrow for me. It was a calculation." "Liar." He stood up and walked to a lacquered box on the table. He opened it and pulled out 2 objects. One was a heavy, tiger-shaped bronze token. The tiger tally. My breath hitched. "You found it." "I did," he said. "Your hiding spot was clever. Buried beneath the roots of the dead plum tree in your courtyard." "Symbolic." "So," I said, a lump forming in my throat. "You have the tally. The deal is complete. You can exile me now." He looked at the tally, then at me. With a casual flick of his wrist, he tossed the tally onto the bed next to me. I stared at it. "What are you doing?" "I don't want it," he said. "You? What?" "I don't want your army, Shun Wei," he said, his voice intense. "And I don't want you to leave." "This doesn't make sense," I argued, panic rising. This was breaking the plot completely. I am the villain. I am the ex. You were supposed to be with Luo Ming. You were supposed to hate me. I tried, Zhao Feng confessed, sitting on the edge of the bed. He reached out, his hand hovering over my uninjured shoulder before settling there, warm and possessive. I hated the man you were. The man who poisoned my tea and schemed for power. But that man died the night I held a sword to your throat. He leaned in closer, his gaze dropping to my lips. The man who woke up? The man who speaks treason with a calm face, who reads in the bamboo grove, who throws himself in front of arrows. That man is not my enemy. I am not a good person, I whispered, my defenses crumbling. Neither am I, he countered. I am a tyrant. I am cruel. Luo Ming is too pure for this court. He would be eaten alive. But you, he traced the line of my jaw. You are forged in fire. You understand the darkness because you have lived in it. You can't trust me. I trust you with my life, he said simply. You proved that in the ravine. I just wanted to survive. Then survive with me, Zhao Feng said. It wasn't a command. It was a plea. Stay? Not as a hostage. Not as a pawn. As my equal. The court will not accept it, I said weakly. My father. Your father will be executed for treason by noon tomorrow, Zhao Feng said without flinching. I spared him only until you woke up, so you could decide if you wanted to watch. I shuddered. I don't. Then he is gone. The obstacles are gone. He took my hand, interlacing our fingers. The calluses on his palms scraped against my skin, grounding me. The prophecy, the rumors, the past. Burn them all. I only care about the present. I looked at him, really looked at him. The cold, two-dimensional character from the novel was gone. In his place was a man who was terrified of being alone, a man who found solace in the one person who shouldn't have been able to give it. And if I still want to leave? I asked, testing him. Zhao Feng's grip tightened. A flash of the old, possessive tyrant flickered in his eyes. Then I will chase you. To the northern wastes. To the ends of the earth. I will court you again and again until you accept me. That sounds exhausting. I sighed. I have stamina, he smirked, the corner of his lip quirking up. I laughed. It was a rusty, broken sound, but it felt real. You are insufferable. And you are mine, he murmured. He leaned down, closing the distance. His lips brushed mine, tentative at first, waiting for rejection. When I didn't pull away, he deepened the kiss. It wasn't soft. It was desperate, hungry, tasting of iron and tea and overwhelming relief. It was a kiss that sealed a pact more binding than any marriage decree. I realized then that the novel was over. The plot was shattered. The doomed ex was dead. And in his place stood someone who had accidentally tamed the monster by simply refusing to play his game. As he pulled away, breathless, resting his forehead against mine, I knew my plans for a quiet life in the countryside were ruined. But looking into the gold-flecked obsidian of his eyes, I decided that perhaps ruling an empire alongside a reformed tyrant wasn't the worst way to survive. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf, not with poison, but with the one thing neither of them expected to find, truth. If you enjoyed seeing the cold Emperor Zhao Feng lose his composure for Shenwei, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a husband who tried to kill you, even if he spent the rest of his life making up for it? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt, masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art. 2 men, BL, Yaoi, man 1. Emperor Zhao Feng, tall, broad shoulders, long black hair tied with gold guan, wearing black and gold dragon robes, sharp jawline, intense obsidian eyes, possessive expression, leaning over. Man 2. Shenwei, delicate features, pale skin, long dark brown hair loose, wearing white inner robes with blood bandage on shoulder, lying on silk sheets, looking up with conflicted expression, blushing. Background is ancient Chinese imperial bedchamber, red silk curtains, gold incense burner, soft candlelight, intimate atmosphere, dramatic lighting, cinematic composition, sharp focus, intricate details.